Hello and welcome everyone to the Reaching to Information on Stimulants presentation. I am your host Cecilia Dunn. I am a graduate student at National University. So let's get started. This is what we will be discussing today. We will have an introduction on stimulants. What are stimulants? Issues related to addiction to stimulants. Individuals more likely to be addicted to stimulant drugs. Caffeine and nicotine effects on users. How stimulants affect the user. Challenges faced in recovery from addiction. Medical use risk. How does this information provided fit into a growing understanding of addiction as a systemic issue? Followed by a summary and references. Historically, individuals used psychostimulants throughout the ages to put in teas, tonics, and for conditions like fatigue, nerves, and in performance-enhancing beverages. Eventually, stimulants such as methamphetamines and cocaine were no longer used in these products as they were labeled as narcotics. This report aims to provide a comprehensive overview of stimulant drugs, including effects on the human body. We will examine the challenges faced in becoming addicted, what kind of person may become addicted, and differences seen in caffeine and nicotine, as well as how other stimulants affect the user physiologically, psychologically, and consequences and challenges perceived in treatment and recovery. So let's look at some issues related to addiction to stimulants. More than 5 million individuals report using cocaine, and more than 2 million have reported using methamphetamines in the United States, according to an article titled Treatment for Stimulant Use Disorder, updated in 2021. Stimulants can seem stronger or less potent based on how it is administered. As an example, when a stimulant drug is injected or smoked, it will affect the user very rapidly with a very powerful high that can last between 10 to 15 minutes. If a drug is inhaled through the nose, it can last hours but will not feel as intense. After using stimulants such as cocaine, the brain becomes flooded with an excessive amount of dopamine in the receptors. The brain works to regulate this overwhelming amount of dopamine by clearing out receptors responsible for feeling that incredible high, and as an end result, users cut down and experience depression and tiredness with a craving and compulsion for more of the drug. Furthermore, when someone is addicted to stimulants, their brain will stop producing normal amounts of dopamine, which leads to tolerance and dependence of the stimulant. Using stimulants to stay awake for just several days in a row can lead to symptoms of sleep deprivation, neuroinflammation, suppression of the immune system, which makes users more susceptible to becoming sick and increasing their risk of attaining infections. They experience a decrease in cognitive function and mood regulation. Other issues related to this include combining stimulants like ecstasy with other medications, which can cause serotonin syndrome. Serotonin syndrome will cause the user to have a myriad of adverse effects such as shivering, diarrhea, fevers, and could lead to seizures and strokes. Other physical health effects include drug-induced psychosis, where a user will lose touch with reality and report experiencing hallucinations and delusions that is not caused by a primary psychotic disorder. Reward pathways in the brain are disrupted, causing the user to struggle with diminished impulse control. Knowingly and unknowingly mixing stimulants with depressants in what is known as polysubstance use can lead to horrendous effects that could be deadly, such as a user taking stimulant drugs with alcohol, benzodiazepines, and pain medication. Unknowingly taking stimulant drugs that are laced with fentanyl can lead to overdose and death. So individuals more likely to be addicted to stimulant drugs. When I'm looking at this, in a personality theory, it is hypothesized that a person who abuses drugs struggles with low self-esteem, they lack coping skills, they're impulsive, they have issues delaying gratification, and they have a low tolerance to aversive emotions. Users may also struggle with co-occurring disorders like bipolar disorder or, depression. They are compulsive and they may engage in criminal acts and physical violence or even sexual violence as a way to get to their next high. These individuals impact those around them, especially in their environmental and societal settings, such as difficulties in maintaining family relationships and experiencing a lack of support or cohesion. So in this report, I also wanted to include information on caffeine and nicotine because they are also stimulants. Caffeine is a stimulant that is naturally occurring and can be found in plants like coffee beans and teas. Caffeine is absorbed quickly in the body. It's metabolized by the liver, and once it's absorbed into the body, it affects the central nervous system by stimulating certain neurotransmitters, where the user will experience enhanced cognitive and behavioral changes, such as experiencing a change in mood, in their concentration, alertness, as well as having a little bit of wakefulness. Furthermore, caffeine is associated with causing varying levels of anxiety, irritation, and anxiousness for those people that some people it can cause them to have sleep disturbances. But with caffeine, the effects are very short-lived. There are withdrawal symptoms with caffeine, such as feeling tiredness, and the energy and attentiveness and mental focus wear off, but most common symptom experienced is a headache. Now, nicotine is also a psychostimulant that is also naturally occurring and found in tobacco products. Nicotine affects the nervous system as well as the physiological and neurological system of the body. Once absorbed in the body, it reaches the brain and affects a receptor known as a nicotronic acetylcholine. The brain also releases several neurotransmitters such as serotonin, dopamine, and norepinephrine, which causes the user to feel blissful as well as relaxed. Stimulant drugs in general activate the sympathetic central nervous system, where adrenergic receptors are stimulated, or certain hormones situate around the kidneys and produce high levels of adrenaline or noradrenaline. Stimulants affect the user throughout the body in various regions of the body. Now, in illicit drug use, such as cocaine or amphetamines, the user will experience heightened mood changes such as exhilaration and euphoria. Users have reported having a sense of greater confidence, but then it's also followed by a rapid onset, followed by a decline, where the mood and the user comes down. Other experiences reported have been an increase in motor activity in the heart. Stimulants increase blood pressure and elevate one's heart rate. Cocaine has been described as a rush or a pulse of electricity to the brain, followed by an intense craving for more. Users describe having an array of repetitive thoughts and behaviors. stimulants can increase one's strength and persistence, and these drugs have been described to as decreasing hunger but also sexual desire. Cocaine has a half-life ranging from less than an hour to an hour and 15 minutes, where amphetamines can last up to 12 hours. Ecstasy has some different effects than cocaine and amphetamines, and even methamphetamine. It can give the user a feeling of emotional closeness and empathy. This drug causes hallucinations, delusions, and also a bad side effect of clenching of the jaw. Some other adverse effects of the stimulant include anxiety, dizziness, sadness, water retention, and serotonin syndrome. One other effect can be damage of the liver. Some withdrawals of stimulants, it's imperative to monitor. In drugs such as MDMA, there's a risk of the user having an elevated body temp, cardiovascular heart spasms, but the worst symptom could be the body becoming rigid and the brain swelling, which can lead to death. So, challenges faced in addiction and recovery. One of the greatest challenges in addiction and recovery, particularly be seen coming from marginalized communities. As mentioned in another slide, these individuals may be coping with life stressors and just finding it difficult. They don't know how to cope, so they abuse stimulants. Some of the systemic challenges they may be facing include coming from a low socioeconomic status where they have poor living conditions. They may be lacking social support. And many users have a history of having a dysfunctional family dynamics. The latest research findings suggest that Black Americans and Native Americans have been identified as being at the highest risk for developing stimulant use disorders, yet they are amongst the least likely to seek treatment and recovery. So it is crucial that treatment programs recognize and address these unique challenges faced by marginalized populations. So for a person to continue taking stimulants, they're obviously going to most likely develop a tolerance and a continuing need for more of the drug, as well as just psychological changes taking place. So that's why I said recovery is best when the user has recognized they have the disease of addiction, and when therapy can engage the whole family environment by including family members in treatment. By engaging family members in therapy, it allows them to understand the user's unique challenges that they face. And it is imperative to understand systemic issues surrounding stimulant abuse and addiction, but more importantly, how individuals can have inclusive treatment strategies that are supportive and help users. These kinds of methods help users to learn to cope in their environments and in their life circumstances. So many of you may be asking, is there a risk for someone that uses stimulants for medical use? Well, in a 2023 journal article titled Cocaine or Methamphetamine Use During Young Adulthood Following Stimulant Use for Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder During Adolescence, the findings show that children and teens that take certain stimulants to treat attention deficit hyperactivity disorder were not more likely to become addicted or misuse their medications. Studies have found that teens that had this particular diagnosis which were left untreated were more likely to engage in using illicit stimulants like cocaine and amphetamine or methamphetamines. However, one sign of a teen developing substance use disorder was a teen that liked to misuse their prescription medications. So that is something to watch for, and it is imperative that parents or guardians or other family members that are taking care of these teens and children, they need to monitor their teens or child's medication use. So how does this information provided help to see that drug abuse could be a systemic issue? In the information provided in this presentation, I have allowed individuals to learn and gain an understanding of what physical, psychological, health symptoms, social determinants, and other factors can significantly impact addiction, withdrawal, overdosing symptoms, and recovery from stimulant drug use. Physically, stimulant medication affects the central nervous system, cardiovascular system, brain, digestive system, as well as affecting users psychologically, aspects of cognition and behavior. Stimulant addiction is affected by, an interconnected systemic issues seen in the influence of the environment, in their families, and in society. And I wanted to mention in teens in particular who may be addicted to stimulants, it's important to examine the systemic unit, encouraging parental support, open communication, and helping to create a healthy family climate. These aspects can safeguard teens from engaging in risky illicit drug use that can lead to addiction. So, in this presentation, I explored the complexities of stimulant addiction, highlighting its impact on how it affects the body, behaviors, families, and communities. Firstly, by explaining what stimulants are and how they've been used throughout the ages. Stimulant addiction, how it affects many people, but how there are also like personality traits and behaviors that kind of tell us what a person might be like that is going to abuse drugs, as well as risk factors for certain populations. Stimulants can change brain chemistry. It affects cognition, behavior, and affects moods. Challenges seen in addiction include the tolerance and dependence on a drug, the withdrawals, and overdose risk. Though it's important to recognize that not everyone who takes stimulants will become addicted to them, some are used for various medical reasons, and individuals struggling with addiction often face underlying issues such as having a medical or a mental health disability that they're trying to self-medicate themselves, coming from a dysfunctional family where there is a lack of communication, a lack of effective coping skills, mental health conditions, as mentioned before, that haven't been diagnosed, and unhealthy home environments. In recovery treatments, they should offer interventions that are supportive to the user, giving them inclusive care that emphasizes the user's cultural background, environmental, and social economic factors. Treatment should include awareness of stimulant use and addiction through education and a therapeutic approach that offers families understanding and support. This concludes the presentation on reacting to information on stimulants. I want to thank you for watching. Here are some of my references used in the next 2 slides. Again, thank you for joining me today, and goodbye for now.